Right, I think we might be on. I am not 100% sure, but we shall have to find out in just a second when this thing turns on. So this is my second live stream, just one working day. The weekends are off. And we're going to be talking about the markets. We're going to be talking about a few different things. I'm going to be answering a few questions as well, so make sure you send them through. Thank you very much to anyone joining. Hopefully there'll be a few different questions posted so we can get this going. Just so that people kind of are aware, I'm going to be doing a big live stream on Wednesday, so in 2 days' time, when I'm going to be talking about the budget. I'm going to be talking about a lot of different things happening in the UK economy in general. I'm going to be providing some commentary on it, and hopefully that'll provide some value to people watching. Hopefully there's just going to be a bit of explanation of maybe what some of the things are for people who maybe don't watch these things too often, and just generally it's going to be a bit of fun, because I've noticed that in the UK there's very little in the way of this kind of commentary and very little in the way of people actually talking about these things. Sure, you can go and watch the live feed from Parliament or watch the BBC, but I just thought it'd be a little bit more entertaining for anyone who wants to watch along with me, so that's why I'm doing that. So if you are around, make sure you go and sign up. Make sure you go and click the bell to get notifications, because otherwise you might miss it. Hello to some early people. Hello Julian, hello Miles, hello Thomas. We have a question already. Hello Goldie, that was a while ago. Would really like to hear your thoughts on NNDM, if you have any. Currently down after some hype. So my thoughts on I don't have many thoughts, if I'm honest. I'm not currently in. There are some reasons, and generally speaking, I know that some of the things that I invest in are probably kind of at the popular end of the stock market spectrum, if you like, but I probably don't go quite as far as some other people, and I've got my own things. I'm going to be talking a lot more in upcoming weeks and upcoming days about how I actually pick my stocks, how I do valuations with a lot of depth and a lot of specifics, as I promised. That work is on the way. I am actually at the moment trying a few different things. As you notice, I'm trying to do lives. I'm trying to actually engage a bit more with people. Hello, Leonard. I'm trying to do... try to put stuff out quicker so that I can put more content that addresses slightly different things. You notice today, this is my fourth video that I managed to do today, which for me is incredible, because just 3 weeks ago, 3 videos a week was kind of difficult, and it took me quite a while. So here we go. I am trying to give it a go, and we're gonna see how it goes. So first off, let's cover the obvious stuff at the beginning that I kind of started this stream for. And excuse me, I'm going to try some new tech here, because the last feed was just me, and now we're going to try to do some screens and all that kind of good stuff. So let's see what happens. Oh, look at that. Look at that. So here we have a little bounce back, 2.35% on the S&P 500. I just opened them. I've got Tesla is up 5%, which is pretty nice. AMD dropped a lot for me over the last few days, kind of disproportionately, I think. Only up 1% so far, but I think that's probably going to keep going a bit higher. Excuse me, I don't have prepped like good trading window and proper screen stuff like that. I just really quickly, I finished something 5 minutes ago and I just opened up a few tabs. We will get better at this. We will get better trading screens and things that aren't Google for watching these things in the future. Bitcoin is back up as well. The one interesting thing is you can go and look up my eTORO portfolio, and it looks like the biggest fail you've ever seen in your life. Because on that Bitcoin portfolio, I actually put money in primarily into Tesla and then into Bitcoin roughly around the time when I was talking about those on my videos, which was sort of roughly just before this collapse happened over here. It was like around here or something for Bitcoin, and the same sort of thing for Tesla. So I'm like down a lot on both of them at the moment, which I actually had a few people comment saying, man, I looked at your eTORO portfolio, you suck, which I found quite entertaining. Yeah, so I'm going to try doing a bit more of the screen thing at some point, trying to figure out how all this works. All right, so let's see if anyone has any questions. We don't have anything at the moment. If you post a lot of videos a day, YouTube won't send all notifications. Yeah, I'm aware of that. I'm also aware that I've tried a few different tactics here, and over the last few weeks, I've intentionally been doing some testing. It might seem like I'm doing random stuff, but there's actually a method to the madness, believe it or not. I've been trying to put out one video every 3 days at the beginning. Then I tried to up it to say like one every day for a few days consecutively. Then I began doing 2 a day. And then there was a week when I began putting out like 3 when I could. And I really struggled. So I did 2 on a Monday, and a Wednesday I did 3, and I tried to still do quite a few on the other days. And I found that all the videos that I put out, when I put out more, actually do better, which is bizarre because everyone tells you that you should not do this with YouTube. Everyone says, no, you know, like you need to give it 2 days so that each video has the time to mature and so that people can, like, you know, watch it, your audience, and then you can jump to the next one. But I'm actually finding the exact opposite is true. Because I'm trying to do my very best to not sacrifice quality too much. Sure, I don't have as many cuts in these videos. You probably notice, like, I say the wrong thing a bit more. I do some less kind of pictures and videos inserted and all that kind of stuff, but that doesn't really matter too much for me. I'm getting a load of errors again, so if anybody out there has any issues, it's something to do with the connection, but hopefully it's all working okay. So I'm going to try to produce as much as I can, so long as I feel there's value in it. I'm not going to produce videos just for the sake of making videos. I'm just trying to do something where I am able to, you know, talk about topics that I find useful, that I find interesting, I find are important for people to know. Some of these, I produce a video and I know that nobody will watch it because it's something boring. It's not like breaking news or something like that. But like today, I made a video about the FCA, where I think, like, it's a really important topic, which is there's a bunch of stuff happening out there where you naturally go and say, hang on, how come there isn't even a statement? How come, like, maybe something is happening behind the scenes? But I think it's somewhat disconcerting when you have a situation like this, when there isn't a, like, regulator stepping in to at least say something to kind of give people the confidence that somebody out there is looking out for the best interest of the customer. And yeah, so sometimes I'm going to putting out these kind of videos out where far fewer people watch them, but I find them interesting anyway. I also have the second channel that I have to put videos out on. So right, there's a few people joining. Thank you very much for joining. Oh, there's a lot of people here. Are any of these questions? Question about Lisa. Is 25% extra added immediately, meaning I can buy 5,000 worth of stocks and investing 4K? My understanding is that it won't be immediate. There's some processing that happens in between. The time that it takes will depend, in my understanding and some very limited experience. I don't really have a Lisa at the moment. It depends on the platform and exactly how they have it set up and how the process works. I'm pretty sure it's not immediate with most of them. I don't know. I haven't used most of them, if I'm completely honest, so I don't know. But Tesla, a post-split price of 65. Nice. Somebody's going to be a billionaire. What do I think of? Well, there's a lot of talk about out there about new companies all the time. And there's a question here about Lucid, I guess under a different name. They just merged, and there's a lot of people talking about it, or announced the merger in any case. I'm generally not a fan of really high valuation companies who have never ever produced a product, who have never produced a service to their customer, who have never produced a product that they've sold, and have no real, like, immediate plans to do so. It's always at some point in the future. Nikola was a really good example of exactly this. Some time ago, I actually made a video that I've since taken down simply because it was getting like 0.0% click-through rate because it was very topical at the time, but it is no longer topical, where I talked about a company where, you know, like, they talk really big things and it's all exciting and they have a fancy CEO, by the way, with a British accent just to make it sound a bit more posh over in the US. But when you're constantly talking about, some point in the future, maybe, like, I'm not a big fan because there's a lot of hype about some of these companies, and in many cases it doesn't go anywhere. Many moons ago, actually way before any of this, there was a company called Fisker, I think, and they had the Karma Fisker car, and that was at that point probably looking like a more prospective company than maybe even Tesla in terms of where they might go with electric cars, and that didn't work out very well. And it's very similar, like very sort of lots of positive media and like, look at this thing, it looks amazing. But until companies actually begin proving their worth in actually doing what they say they will be doing, I like to kind of hold fire a little bit. That's just my personal opinion on these things. What do we have here? What do I think of the S&P 500? Is it still a safe bet given it's now comprised of more tech companies? I think it's an even safer bet. The reason why I'm a big fan of, like, I actually have some money in the NASDAQ 100 as well for this reason, because it's indexed, if you like, on tech companies, and the S&P 500 is indexed enough anyway. But the reason I'm a big fan is because these tech companies serve the entire world. You look at like what runs stuff, if you take a big step back, what runs the world in terms of the systems architecture, you know, like on Google Cloud, on Amazon Web Services, on Microsoft Azure, in terms of like what email everyone uses, what search engine everyone uses, what all the different platforms, social media, it all sits there. And so for as long as that continues and more of these companies begin entering the S&P 500, I'm all game. This is basically sort of like a centralized hub for where like marketing happens globally, for where users' eyeballs are, etc. So on the overall, I'm pretty happy. I have a lot of my own money in the S&P 500 as well. Talking Tesla this week, so we have a bounce back. We have a bounce back of 5%. Again, excuse my extremely poor ability to manage all the tech over here. I'm gonna have to figure out how to do it better. But we have screen. There we go. Here. So Tesla's up 5.6% as it stands, and that's obviously, I think, like a minor fluctuation, given that it is actually down considerably more than that net still versus their position in the high 800s. I think I bought a bunch of it as an example on eToro, where I did like the actual introductory video, and I bought a load of it at 875. It's still there at 875, so it's still quite a way down from that. But I will be talking about that later this week, possibly next week, about how I do valuations, and I'll be talking about Tesla in one video specifically. My view is that regardless of which one of those two prices it is, I would buy in anyway. So I'm not too concerned on that front. All right, let's jump back. Let's jump back in my face. How do we do this? Boom. Right, some more questions. Trading 212 is not allowing customers, and eToro seems to be the next best thing, but it's not allowed ISA and free trade charges £3 a month. Does this mean I have no options for the time being? Well, to me, £3 a month, if you take away trading 212 as a like concept, imagine it didn't exist. The free trade £3 a month is still miles ahead of any of the alternatives in terms of pricing, in terms of what they do, in terms of what they offer with the product. So I would definitely still say that I think like it's easy when you get too used to everything being free, like trading 212, then you go, oh man, the £3 a month is like punitive. How dare they charge me money? But it's easy to forget. It's like people get so used to it. It's easy to forget how good even the number 2 proposition is versus the rest, which is miles away. So in my mind, it is unclear as to what's happening with Trading 212. They said that they had technical issues. I made a video about it, and I got a lot of contact from Trading 212. They sent me lots of emails. I went on their forum to communicate with them as they asked, and they were very strongly saying that all my questions, thought-provoking questions I was asking, were completely untrue. But yet we are more than a month since when that whole thing started, and their latest response I checked earlier today was still no update. So my view on this is it's questionable, right? You would question why a major investing platform like that would go on pause for more than a month on new accounts. Because I get that their argument is that there's a step change in tech platforms, but usually you don't have that long of a pause in order to implement a change like that. Maybe I'm completely not aware. Well, I am not completely not aware of what they're actually doing. So this is just ramblings of a random guy on the internet. I feel like the microphone gain is a tad too high. Is anyone else feeling that it's too loud? What do we got? How do I? 1 second. Let's have a look. Now, it's not. It's getting close, but it's not going over. So just turn your volume down. It's not actually breaking. I'm not going over the threshold, so it shouldn't be peaking at your end. I think it's okay. I think it's okay. Maybe we'll just reduce it a tiny bit. A tiny bit. Reduce the volume. Okay. So what other questions have we got while we're here talking? What I think the week ahead looks like for the tech market. I don't really know about the week ahead. it's fun. It's fun to watch. It's fun to commentate. It's fun to kind of like talk about maybe the whys and stuff like that. But I'm not really personally too concerned. I'm hoping that it begins climbing back up. It looks like we've had a correction based on what's happened, and it looks like we're now having this post bounce back correction. This is the same. I got a lot of questions from people saying, "Hey, but why aren't you selling? Why wouldn't you sell and wait and then buy back in?" And today is exactly the reason why, because at the risk of going slightly off tangent, today is sort of the reason why. Oh, got the wrong screen here. Here we go. If I sold and was waiting, and I was sitting there waiting for the price to drop even further, I might have missed the 6% day today, and I would have been essentially 6% down if I had to buy in then at the higher price. That's the reason why I don't play these short-term games, because I have no idea when these things are going to be going up and down. I don't really want to know. So let's go back on my face. Right, let's look at some more questions. For the Lisa, does the bonus also earn stocks growth? Or is it just, yes, the entire amount can be invested or put into a savings account equivalent, and the entire £5,000 will then be, well, up to £5,000 will be earning the money. What are my views on SPACs in general? So I'm quite wary. I have previously gone early on companies when I saw a big opportunity, but I only really do it where I really know the company really, really well. I know maybe some of the people at the business. I followed them from way before they got there. But generally speaking, I try to kind of steer clear from the very, very early stage stuff in anything that I don't understand to a degree where I could genuinely model and feel happy about the model of what I think the valuation for the company should be, really, because there's very little to actually go on at that point. So that's why. People on the left side of cash flow quadrant pay everything for right side when wealth will move to rich, smarter people. Somebody's been reading a lot of Robert Kiyosaki. Trading 212 is, we've done that one. All right, let's go down. I feel I'm so far behind on these questions. Will Trading 212 come back online for new accounts? I have zero idea. I kind of asked the question and got very rude responses because of, my previous history with the guys. I really like Trading 212 as a platform, but this just seems really odd to me. And when purchasing tracking funds through platforms like Vanguard, in regards to getting the best price, such when there are corrections, are ETFs better than index funds to get the good price? In the UK, like for the vast majority of the stuff you're going to be buying, the two are the same. So, for example, if you're buying the S&P 500, the way you're going to be buying it is via an ETF, like a Vanguard. There's 4 different ones that are main ones, and then other types as well, or an iShares one. They're all ETFs. So it's kind of the same thing, really, if you're investing in an index like that. And the prices on them are really, really low. So if you're talking about the main, say, S&P 500, for example, because I talk about them a lot, the prices on both the iShares ones and the Vanguard ones are 0.07% on the fund. And if you buy them, it's actually cheaper to buy. I mentioned this in the live last time we talked. It's actually cheaper to buy them if you buy them off Vanguard, because Vanguard charges a platform fee as well, whereas, say, Trading 212 or FREETRADE do not, and you can buy the exact same 0.07% fund on there. Anyway, I got let's see. Do you still use FREETRADE? Yes, I still use FREETRADE, and I'm using FREETRADE more. I use FREETRADE, Trading 212, and eToro. That's the 3 platforms that I currently use because, well, I've talked about it enough. Alexander, spelt in a sort of Russian way. Would you give a tip on some books to read that are about finance investment? I made a video about books that I wouldn't read. The one that I have recommended to a few people in the comments is not really specifically about finance or investment. It's about just thinking straight about, the world of work and the world of money. And it's a 30-minute read, and it's called Who Moved My Cheese. I absolutely love that book. So I would highly recommend everyone go and read it like 5 times, preferably or at least over a few years. Julian asks, do you have any hobbies outside the financial world? Tell us a bit about the Sasha the person. So one of my biggest hobbies, I don't do it very often for obvious reasons, is road trips. And I actually have, that's the primary reason why my biggest website that I have in terms of my blog is one that talks about road trips. I love this stuff. I've driven a crazy amount. I've driven all over the United States, all over many different road trips, and love. I love going on really random road trips. Like, what was a recent one? A recent one I went on was Idaho, Wyoming, and Montana, and I love that. I've driven all over Europe. I've driven from London to like Moscow and St. Petersburg and other parts of Eastern Europe. And I remember my wife and I went on a scenic road trip to Kosovo. So we do fun things like that from time to time. Although now that we have a family, they're probably going to be slightly different kinds of road trips. But that's my big one. I also do, like, I've been doing more. This sounds really old and boring, but I've owned this house for a long time, and I've been sort of neglecting the outside. So I've been doing a lot of work on fixing some of the outside and gardening. That's kind of pretty much it. I like cars. I have a Jeep that I really like, and generally I'm into cars quite a bit. That kind of goes with the road trip theme. What have we got? Oh, there's so much. Oh my god. There's too many people asking questions. I got nice deals on Coca-Cola shares on Friday. Bought 9. They're already going up today despite the scandal with LinkedIn trading. I think because so many shares were so discounted last week, that probably is why everything's going up regardless of what the news is. Meet Sasha. Yeah. Making too many videos. Thank you. Best buy at the moment. A lot of people buying. I've already answered that, I think, to a degree. I'm not in. Also, we'll take these days, you can just switch things up. Sasha, can you make a video about good books? Yes, I just answered that question from somebody else. Have you heard of XO UK? If so, what are your thoughts on the execution-only platform? No, what is it? I should probably look it up. I might have heard of whatever it is they do, but no, it doesn't ring a bell. What do you think of ADA and crypto in general? I think Sparkpoint has a lot of potential. I don't really play crypto other than Bitcoin. There's a lot of reasons for it. I just don't. Because of adoption, because of actual use. I'm not really interested in the others for now. Being a learning curve, would you buy or sell certain types of stocks? E.g., cash-like. I'm not sure what the question is there. Sorry. Well, let's see a vid on the workplace pension options at retirement age. I'm going to be doing some more videos on pensions for sure. TSMC has not bounced. Yeah, I don't understand why everyone is so negative. And like, these are the guys that are literally manufacturing everything for Apple, everything for like AMD, I think it is, and Nvidia. But they're manufacturing like tons of stuff for loads of all the biggest brand names out there, and they're building huge new processes and huge new factories. This is like the foundry of the world's electronics. It's like that old point that people make, like if everyone's mining for gold, you want to invest in the company at the foot of the mountain that sells on the gold picks. This is the in my mind the best example. So I'm holding for a long time with these guys for as long as they keep doing it. Sure, there's some other people like Samsung are doing some stuff. There's some guys in the Netherlands doing some cool things, but I'm holding that for a while. Been waiting 3 weeks for FREETRADE to verify my details for an ISA. Is this normal? It is not normal. I haven't heard of people being delayed that much. I know they have a lot of people joining, as all other trading platforms are. eToro really increased their minimum deposit from $200 to $1,000 for the same sort of reason, but I haven't heard of that. Maybe you should get in touch with them. What we got? Spencer Johnson, who moved my cheese. That's the one. As a UK non-resident, is ETORO the only option? I want to invest in Vanguard. The truth is, there's probably other options, but I live in the UK. I'm aware of what's happening in the UK. I also am sort of aware of stuff in the US, partly because I used to live there for a little bit, and just generally, like, that's the big market. But I don't really know about many other countries. There might be local options that might be good. FREETRADE is is sort of working to expand into some European countries before potentially expanding further as well. But eToro is the one that is very broadly available around the world. It's kind of unique in that it's available in the US and all these other countries. Normally people are either available in the US or the other countries because of the legal jurisdiction issues and stuff like that. But yeah, as far as I know, they are the one that is very broadly available. What happens if platform goes down for an investor, and how they can retain their investment? Do they transfer in other platforms? So I'm not sure what that question is. If it's a short-term downtime, nothing happens, your funds and investment and cash just stay in. if the platform goes completely, then that's when the FSCS process kicks in, and then those people are going to be getting the money out for you on your behalf and then sending it to you. But it's not in the vast majority of cases that I'm aware of, they're not going to be doing any kind of share transfers or anything complicated. You're just going to get the cash value, whatever they can get, and likelihood is they're going to be. This is a government agency. They're not going to be doing anything like that. Did you water your plants today? No, I did not. I am not that much into gardening. I'm just doing stuff because the outside has been neglected. What do you think about UK buy-to-let properties investment? Yeah, I'm considering it myself. I think it's one which is really interesting. I'm only really interested in genuine buy-to-let though, rather than some of those sort of, REITs or other types of thing like that. And obviously you need a lot of cash. And in my opinion, you should only go and put that much cash up if you have a lot of other cash invested in other asset classes, so you're not 100% exposed to just the property market. So I'm not quite there yet myself. I've invested in property, but only the one I live in at the moment. So I generally think it's probably definitely something I want to get into coming soon. Could the political situation between China and Taiwan impact TSMC? I don't really necessarily see it. It's been kind of the same for a long time. I know there's a few people in World Health Organization who said or didn't say things, but in the grand scheme of things, I don't think anything much is changing on that front. Of course, I don't know. Tomorrow, something major could happen and flare up, but I'm not particularly concerned myself. What's your view on living an e-nomad lifestyle? Live in a cheap country and work remotely. Well, so this is something that I've thought about before, but it's not really for me, and there's a few different reasons for that. One is I actually like living in a country which has a lot of facilities where I speak the language of the country, I can communicate with everyone properly, where there's all the benefits of a highly developed economy, there's all the benefits of a highly developed culture. You can go and enjoy nice things in the evenings. There's just a million good reasons why I prefer to live in a place like, for example, the UK. There's also like family reasons. There's also proximity to broader family and other kinds of things like that. And I like nice weather, and I like looking at nice things and stuff like that. But I'm quite happy doing that on holiday, and I'm hopefully going to be able to in the future just go on enough holidays to satisfy that element of me. I don't really need to live there. I actually prefer to just relax and really take it in rather than have that all on my doorstep, but be putting out 4 YouTube videos a day and not really having the time to enjoy it. So this is just a personal preference, and I'm sure most people will disagree. Question: what do you do for a living? Good question. In the process of switching from doing my consulting business to doing content, of which YouTube is a big part at the moment, go and check out my second channel called The Sashi Anshin Story. I literally talk about this on that channel, like how I'm building this online business, and there's a lot of information on there, although there's still not that many videos, but there's going to be a lot more videos on there. Is Palantir as big as Kathy Wood says it is? Yes and no on that question. To me, I'm kind of in two minds. I really love the company and what they do and how they do it. They're extremely advanced in the world of processing data in terms of structuring data, mining, etc., analytics. I actually know some people who work in that company, and they hire unbelievably smart people, way smarter than I am. But there's a downside, which is they're a sort of like very replaceable service-based company where I don't know, in the short term, I think they're going to do pretty well, but I'm not 100% confident that that kind of company would necessarily thrive over 10, 20, 50 years, because it's like the same as with consulting firms or law firms. As times change and other people come on board, etc., like if that service quality reduces, then some people can outmuscle. They don't have a billions and billions of dollars worth reason for people to necessarily stick with them for a long time. So I kind of feel like there's just a little bit of risk in my mind on that front. TSMC have been running at 100% capacity for ages. The plan is so expensive, it takes years to bring online, so increased demand will take a long time to trickle through to profits. I think like the amount that they're investing right now in terms of building the new plants and things like that, and the ridiculously tiny processes, I just can't see how we've been running on 100% capacity with the world being out of spare chips for like about 7 months now. And these are the guys who are the biggest producer of chips in the world. So, and even this week there's been news of like Tesla and other people stopping production, and they're being short on chips. Like, there's a reason why I made that video on boring stocks. What companies that manufactures chips for AMD, etc. A lot of different people. There's a big chain process. The company that we were discussing earlier that sort of produces a lot of stuff for a lot of people, and actually the same like AMD, Nvidia, all those kind of guys, they actually have different people producing different parts of their line, typically. But the company we were talking about was TSMC. I lived and worked from Koh Phangan to Samui in Thailand. All right, great. Better internet than Europe and cheaper cost. House on the beach, 500 a month. Yeah, as I said, it's just for everyone has their own preferences and their own like ways of ordering what things are important to them. Great. I think most people will probably quite like that. It's just like, that's just not really for me. Replatform going down. I thought the shares are held in client's name. So would they be liquidated or just transferred to another platform? Liquidated. Yes, they are technically. So the question is, if liquidated, that could mean a big capital gains tax hit. There's a few different things on it. I think this question is quite big. One is they are held technically in your name. It's not the same as you literally owning them. They are held in your name. They have to be held at a separate, much more secure kind of place than the actual stockbroker themselves, and there's certain protections about access to them. But, and this is a really important but, because a lot of people think, well, that automatically means 100% protection, and that just isn't the case, because although they are held securely in that way, whenever you go and make trades, whenever you go and do anything with those shares, the software that links to those shares is able to go and access them for the purpose of completing on those trades for you. And it's one of those, because all of this is so new, like we've so used to having big established platforms being around for absolutely forever, like Vanguard. We haven't had this situation where a lot of new firms potentially who don't have the same level of robustness in their systems as we are seeing with what's been happening over the last few days and weeks, who perhaps don't have the same level of robustness, maybe because they're so new and maybe they haven't got as much establishment in their processes, in terms of the way that people have access to things. And I don't know what, some rogue employee or some rogue process or some unforeseen, like unexpected issue could do, but it's not 100% guaranteed that your shares could disappear if there was some malfunction as well. That's why we have a protection process in the UK where the government can step in and essentially go and find where those funds or where those shares are. But yeah, it is still, the protection level is still very, very high for sure. Any opinion on cybersecurity stocks such as CrowdStrike? Not much opinion. I personally am not invested for much of the same reason. Like, I don't necessarily see the long-term value and the sort of like that high growth of the industry they're in and their own personal growth, because I think they're very replaceable types of companies. But that's just my view. Would you buy Brewdog? No, I've not been partaking in those IPAs. Again, I think maybe they can do some interesting stuff, but I'm personally not in at the moment. Actually, if you had 80,000 saved for a house deposit, what would you keep it in if you plan to buy a house within a year? I have in an instant access ISA. I'm guessing that instant access ISA does not pay a lot. So this is a complex question. I can't really give a very good answer on it because I would be bordering on something that would be like financial advice. Obviously, you have to weigh up your risks, because if you put it in anything that is market related, there's going to be a lot of risk in the fact that that money will then go down, and then you're going to be unable to buy the house, or you're going to have to pay a more expensive mortgage rate, you're going to have to find some extra money somewhere, etc., etc. There's the benefit of using the Lisa account that I released a video just before this live went out, where essentially if you're going to be buying within a year, if you're buying in exactly 12 months and you can just sort of push it and stretch it, then maybe you can make use of a Lisa account. But otherwise, whatever the highest like yielding savings account is, probably because you need it quite soon and you just can't take any of the risks, I'd probably just do very similar to what you're doing. If I'm honest, it's like you need to pull it out right of the markets in order to keep it safe, if that's the situation. Like if I was in a position where I was planning to put down a 40% deposit on a house, and I was perfectly, like happy. I would still be able to buy the house if it went down to say 20% or 25%. I myself, because I'm quite a risk like happy guy, I would probably put it in the stock market, because I know that even for like a minor like hit, even in a normal sort of like correction, or even a market crash where things go down by 20-25%, I'd probably still be okay. But most people probably would not feel the same way, because I would say that's okay, but then I can also take the upside if the upside happens, and then instead of having just 40%, I might be able to have, I don't know, 45, 50, 60%, whatever it is. So everyone needs to make their own decisions on that. The Great Reset that's coming from the NGO should be ready. Yeah, I've heard people say this for a few decades now. I'm sure it's coming. I'm not actually sure it's coming. You see my videos, I do like to push the boundaries some kind of, but I'm not sure about all of that stuff. Benefits of trading in the UK market instead of the US. There are some benefits. Some benefit, like you get, it's cheaper. Generally, you benefit from not having to pay the withholding tax on dividends, although you do have to pay stamp duty on London Stock Exchange main listings. And the issue is, I'm not picking necessarily based in geography. I'm not picking US stocks because they're based in the US. It just so happens that the companies that I really like at the moment happen to be based over in the US. And that's kind of roughly, oh, Damien's turned up. Hey guys, if you haven't, Damien's posted a comment, did you watch the GameStop congressional hearing? I'd love to hear your general thoughts. I watched it. It was quite interesting. I think we have an ongoing issue with people who don't really know what they're talking about, running an investigation into things they don't understand. And some of the questions, like, they obviously prepped in advance, but I got the sense that none of them really. And I don't like how this thing very quickly turned from a, hey, what's actually happening, to let's blame the one guy who has a funny name and protect all their hedge funds in the process. I didn't like the fact that the difficult questions were not asked of them that should have been asked. By the way, if anyone watching hasn't subscribed to Damien Talks Money, you should go and subscribe to this guy. His channel is really good. I watch all his videos. I get entertained by the jokes. Right. What other questions we got? Is Starling your main banking app, and if you could reconsider Monzo? I have Monzo as well. That's the one I didn't close just because I wanted to keep an eye on what's happening, what they're doing. I don't really use them. Starling is my main banking app. Yeah, I really like it. I really like what they're doing. I'm hoping they do a lot more on the whole managing money and the POTS features and all that kind of stuff. But we shall find out. Somebody clarifying something that Hales has shared with AIG and not individual names. In the event Trading 22 goes bust, the current value of shares we paid out to you. That is true, but my understanding is when things are held off the broker in a third party, they have to declare who owns what portions of which shares. That's what I was saying. They're not the same as you literally owning the shares and being in your name, but there's definitely a record of what you own that lies separate. So I think it's sort of like very frequently positioned as being the same as you literally owning the shares in that other thing. It's not quite the same, but it's definitely somewhere in between. Yeah, if you bank with Barclays 85, that's a really good point that I don't mention enough, because the protection is so somebody said also worth bearing in mind that FSCS protection with Trading 212 cash held on account is held at Barclays, and if you bank with Barclays, the 85,000 allowance is split across all the accounts you have with Barclays. And this is a really important point. Whenever you hold money with like a company, if that company then actually holds your money at a different place, so the same goes with Interactive Brokers and the shares. If you happen to have shares with Interactive Brokers directly as well, then you might get into a situation where if both happen to go under at the same time, then you might hit the 85 cap without realizing it, even if each individual one is under. But it's a very good point as well. Do I have any other questions or not? Or are we good? Tesla running. How was your opinion on the rise of fat G-man stocks in the S&P with top 7 stocks making 25% of the index weighting? This situation happens all the time. I mean, like, we've had the same situation before when petroleum companies were dominating, and before that, there was a time like several decades ago when the banks were completely dominating. There's always going to be companies. That's just the nature of these types of markets, where you're going to have some behemoths who just turn up and their market cap is so big that they naturally make up a large proportion, but that's okay in my mind, because even though they are so big, each individual company is still, like, if you look at most funds, even funds that people perceive to be very, very secure and very robust and very safe, they often have as much as 10 to 12%, in some cases higher, of the entire fund invested in one company at the top. So if you go and look at the actual distributions, you might be surprised as to how exposed some of these funds are to the performance of individual companies. But the reason is exactly the same, because they're so big and the prospects are so good that those funds do the same thing. All right, Julian is asking, do you think machine learning companies are overhyped? Or is it really the next frontier that revolutionize many companies? I think machine learning as a thing is a really interesting concept. I am not convinced, for the same reasons that I talked about Palantir, about the specific companies who only kind of focus their attention and their work on machine learning, and necessarily because of, I'm not seeing yet the uniqueness of any one of them that would give them that edge that I'm looking for. However, the thing that really bothers me in the space is sort of linked, is the number of people out there, especially in the investing world, who talk about artificial intelligence. Like, you see this investment platforms, we use artificial intelligence in order to select, your portfolio. What they mean by artificial intelligence is like an algorithm which says you are this age and your risk profile is this, and therefore out of our different five different funds, this is the one you should get. I think people, with machine learning, you get some of this as well, when it's just a really basic self-updating algorithm. But for somebody who did maths at university, it really bothers me when people talk about all these concepts and basically completely lie to their consumers about what the actual processes employed are. Algorithms are algorithms. We used to have algorithms when people used to have punch cards that you'd have to feed into computers in the 60s and stuff, in the 70s. And sure, algorithms can get more sophisticated and they can self-update, sure, based on updated data. But the moment people do that, they like to put all kinds of smart words in it. I've worked in too many companies where people get really impressed by smart words, no matter how pointless they are. I'm not going to go into the details on this, but it's just a bugbear that I have. What do we got? Is now a good time to start a Lisa and stocks and shares ISA, or is there likely to be too much instability this year? What's the alternatives? I don't know about instability. I don't know whether things are going to go up, whether things are going to go down. I don't really necessarily care. The one good reason to start it now rather than some point later this year is we are 1 month away from when the tax year changes. So that means if you put any money in now, then you get the fresh 20,000 allowance after that, although most people probably don't need that fresh allowance. But with the Lisa account, if you do want to put in more than 4,000, that means you can put 4,000 this side by the 5th of April and then up to 4,000 the other side. So there's that benefit there, I guess. But in terms of whether it's a good time, I don't time the market and I don't know. Would you ever consider one-to-one trading courses? If so, I'll sign up for sure. Thank you. Really appreciate it. I am not planning anything of that type. The one thing I'm trying to avoid doing with the sort of talking about, I guess, my business side more is I'm trying to not do things that are one-on-one so much, because I'm trying to produce content that can reach more people rather than sort of doing individual calls or things like that. Even though maybe some people would pay money for them, I just don't think I'll provide as much value to as many people doing that. So I'm trying to focus just on content, and there might be other types of content in the future, like written stuff, whatever. But there's still going to be one-to-many kind of business model for now. What do we got? So Mike Electrical Stuff says ML and AI, so machine learning and AI will be big, but nobody knows which companies will win. That is a really succinct version of how I think, and that's the same reason why I don't buy in some other industries as well that we just talked about earlier. Do you think, Tamware is asking, do you think car companies should go for electric vehicles or hydrogen-powered fuel cell tech? Only problem is fuel cell tech needs to be more secure. So what do you think? I don't really know. In my kind of very unscientific opinion, I think electric is a far better bet because of two reasons. One is it has far greater capacity for growth, because at the moment we're using battery cell technology that, generally speaking, hasn't really changed for like decades and decades. The batteries that people used in the 50s and 60s are very, very similar in terms of their capacity and in terms of how they work and in terms of the ability of what they do to what we use today. and this is something that people kind of often forget. I think like we could potentially, with scientific progress, go far, far further in terms of the ability to store energy. With hydrogen fuel cell, there is a maximum amount of energy that hydrogen fuel cell can ever release, just because of the chemistry involved, per volume of hydrogen that you're able to store. And sure, maybe people will find better ways of compression, but generally speaking, there is a much more restricted upper cap in theory. And the fact that the two are sort of like very similar, I think like you can still sort of, if you account for weight as well, hydrogen is probably slightly ahead. But I think in terms of the capacity potential, I think I'll definitely be talking electric. However, there's a lot of restrictions with that in terms of the rare earth metals and cobalt that's like out at the moment, and Elon is posting tweets about it, and stuff like that. If they develop better tech that maybe doesn't make use of materials that are quite so hard to come by, maybe there's something interesting to come. At the moment, I don't know. I think I'm slightly swaying towards electric to a degree. Also, the fact that there's now a fast-growing network, not just for Tesla, but for all kinds of electric chargers, and the power lines are being updated. So the electric system is so far ahead because of the existing electricity supply around the world, just regular power lines. I think that gives electric cars a massive advantage just in use and adoption, because it's very easy. You can go and set up a charging point in your home relatively easily. You can't really as easily go and put a hydrogen storage tank or something like that in your house that you go and fill up and then fill from there. So I think just those kind of things. A lot of people talking about electric cars. Oh, I have no idea. What do I think of ARC now that eToro supports it in the UK? Some have suggested that they may have issues through getting too big and owning very high percentage of some companies. I have a very, very small holding in ARC. I think it's amazing how much people are talking about it. They've obviously done a great job at marketing and at hype. And to me, I do like some of the stuff that these guys are doing. And my investment strategy is not too far away from what they do personally. And it's not because of what they do. But I think that people forget, ARC was sort of like breaking even and kind of staying flat for a really long time. And then had one great year where they went and hit like massive returns because of very strong investments in companies like Tesla. And then they had a sort of another decent year, which did okay. And suddenly it's the best fund ever and everyone wants to invest. And that old adage of past performance doesn't necessarily inform future performance. Well, I'm kind of sitting firmly in that on that fence, because, hey, great, they've done really well. It doesn't mean that their investments are going to continue doing really, really well. And if you invested in a similar kind of way during this period, you would have made the same sort of really high returns as well. I'm not seeing something in an investment strategy that is super unique. I'm not saying, they pick out companies that nobody else talks about. So I think for people who want to be invested in tech, and for somebody else to be doing all the thinking around which particular tech companies to buy in when, and especially for a company that maybe has a bit more leverage to be able to influence the companies through buying lots of their stock, like recently happened with Palantir, I think it's a relatively straightforward way to invest. But I'm not sure it's the sort of golden goose that a lot of people seem to be making out it out to be. Hi Sasha, Domestos Bleach. Hello Bleach. Are you worried that ICLN ETF is too heavily weighted in plug and power stock? Yeah, so they went down a lot recently, right? I am a little bit concerned, but I think in the long term, I'm hoping that I haven't got a huge amount. I have a very small holding in it, to tell you the truth, because most of my ETF money is sitting with just the S&P 500. But yeah, I think they might do better by diversifying, investing in some other companies as well. I've not been looking too hard at them recently, if I'm honest. What is the view on many central banks? Why am I always looking over here? Why don't I put this over here? I know why I didn't, because I use this screen. I've got 3 screens, and I use this screen to do the, when I'm cutting back to the screen. So it's just I keep looking over here. Otherwise, all right. If I was Elon Musk for a day, what would you tweet? I have zero idea. I am really bad on Twitter. When I tweet very rarely, just because I got other stuff and I just forget to even go on it. And when I do, it's usually boring stuff that nobody even notices. So I'm the worst guy to say. If the Chancellor increases corporation tax on Wednesday, any implications on the markets? I'm not 100% sure, because I think the expectation is probably to a degree baked in, and if it's not this year, then I think next year is more likely to happen. So I'm not convinced it's going to be a huge difference necessarily, but we shall have to wait and see, I guess, on that one. I just think people are expecting tax rises of some sort at some point in time, and I think most tax rises probably won't be happening in this budget. And if I'm completely honest, I would guess that they're going to go back to what they used to do, and they're actually going to go and switch budget timings again and probably do another budget in the autumn so that they can go and reverse some things and begin adding some new taxes. Just because hopefully by that point, if things continue with the vaccination program and everything else, if the economy is really up and running by that point, it will probably not have the same political implication of increasing taxes at that point, but maybe they don't want to wait all the way until next spring. What is my view? Tam was asking, what's my view on many central banks preparing to issue their digital currency? Don't think government are going too far. I don't really care. I think the point is completely missed. It's one of those things where you hear a central bank or a big bank like UBS like to do this kind of stuff. They're like, we're going to release a digital currency, and that makes us somehow amazing. And I always ask the question, but what's the point? How is this, for example, better than just regular currency that you as a central bank already issue? And the answer in most cases is it isn't, because some of the fundamental principles like limited supply, like independent of any country or third party governing or regulating it, like it being country neutral, like all of these different things get broken. It isn't decentralized then, it is fully centralized. And it's people just using terminology to try to push something that makes no sense whatsoever. It's like recently there's been a hype over the last few years. As a consultant, I have this a lot with banks. So when I go into a bank, they say, hey, we want to go and change our current account or credit card or whatever. It's going to be so innovative. It's going to run on the blockchain. And my question is, why? What's wrong with old school like tables in a database? Like, what does the blockchain do for your current account that the traditional table in an SQL database doesn't do? And the answer is usually nothing. And it's the same here. It's like they just wanted to release a new type of fiat that sounds cool, but has none of the sort of advantages or benefits that most people would associate with a traditional cryptocurrency. So I'm like, it always baffles me because all the news pick it up and they run with it. They run with it saying, oh, look at all this technology. And my question is, tell me one thing that's going to be better about this than just the fiat version of the same thing that they already do. I don't know. How do I split my investments and why do you split them like that? I have a whole video, you should go and check it out, called My Investing Portfolio. I actually link it at the end of most of my videos because I think it's quite useful. I talk to some degree, and I'm going to be talking more about specific classes in subsequent videos, but you go and check that out. I can't remember what it's called, but at the end of most of my videos, you'll find it. Views on concentrating on major large cap headline indices, S&P 500 and NASDAQ, versus the more diversified wider S&P total market. I am not interested in diversifying beyond, like S&P 500 is diversified enough for what I'm interested in, because then the more you diversify from there, the more you're going to be diluting the actual benefits of being invested in the kind of companies that tend to grow. So I don't tend to invest in those kind of global growth caps. Guys, I'm going to have to go in about 3 minutes. So I'm just going to answer one or two more questions and then I'm going to have to go. Am I looking to invest heavily in any hospitality stocks? Restrictions are lifted anytime in the UK? Not necessarily, because I have no idea how they're going to bounce back, whether they're going to bounce back, and what the issues are going to be. In the next few months, a lot of companies are going to really get hit hard. The VAT that was suspended for a year is going to be due to be paid in the next month. And for companies that don't pay it in the next month, they can go and stretch it out and they can pay it over a few months throughout this year. But that payment is due. Then there's going to be the loans that have to start being repaid starting next month for some companies and the month after, depending on which company it is. And then the furlough is going to be taken away. But is the uptake of those leisure facilities going to be the same as it was in the past? I'm not sure. I'm not convinced. There's too many question marks for me at the moment. One last question. Thoughts on rumours re-extending stamp duty holiday till June and new government-backed 5% mortgages? Seems stories will do anything to keep property price. Yeah, I personally think, this is one where a lot of people probably disagree with me, but I think in the grand scheme of things, if you have a failing economy and you have people's jobs that are going out the window and you have massive issues like that, I'm amazed by the amount of effort people are putting in to, propping up property prices and ensuring that people can go and buy property. There's been a massive bubble of people buying property as a result of the stamp duty holiday and things like that. And I don't really get it, because to me, in terms of priorities for the country, this is, in my opinion, should be way down. But it seems to be one of the main points that everyone cares about. Oh, you know, like how long can you go and buy property without stamp duty? I don't get it. All right, one more question, then we're gonna go. Thanks for the Q&A. Thank you. I'll check out that video. Do you recommend any platform in particular for stocks and shares, Lisa? I do not. You're gonna have to go and do your own research, Julian. The reason is, there isn't one that really stands out as being particularly great, and the others, you just need to go and make up your own mind. Anyway, that's all I have for now. Thank you so much to everyone who joined in. I'm sorry this dragged on for so long. Thank you so much for watching. I really, really appreciate it. I'll see you guys later as always. And off we go.